What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Cthulhu the Dark One back with you once again in kind of vloggy form. This time I decided I'll give you my thoughts on the new Three Stooges movie that just recently came out. I saw it it's Tuesday now, I think, technically. I need a new battery. But I saw it on Sunday with some friends. It was good. I went into it with about mediocre expectations, I would say, because, well, let's face it, I consider myself an above-average fan. I've seen all of the shorts, Larry Moe Curly, Larry Moe Shemp, the reused Shemp footage, Joe, Curly Joe, and, you know, at least 3 times each. I'm a big fan. You can always tell the big Three Stooges fans when they know that, when they know who Jerome Howard was, who Samuel Howard was, and who Moses Howard was. Think about that one. But anyway, so I'm like, you know, leading up to it, seeing the trailers, I'm like, well, it doesn't look that bad. I'm like, you know, it should be okay. I told my friends, I was like, you know, the best they can do is recreate it. You're looking at people, and granted, you know, well, the later stuff with Curly Joe, Moe did actually help write, but, you know, early on, they were just actors, to be fair. You know, they didn't exactly write the material. The comedy came in just how they executed it. A lot of the, like, little witty remarks when they would slap each other, or stuff like that, was kind of off the cuff. A lot of Curly was off the cuff, like his barking, the just random, like, teeth chattering, like, and stuff like that. That actually came about of him not being able to remember his lines, and they just kind of let him go with it because it worked. And so anyway, and you know, they pretty much, you know, no matter who wrote it, they pretty much made slapstick, you know, a form of comedy, and made a name for themselves with that. So I went into it, I'm like, you know, they're basically either just going to be able to recreate it. You know, their goal with the movie, I read the synopsis from a couple sites, is like, we're just going to take the Three Stooges and put them in today's time. And I'm like, okay, it could work. And they did a good job. Honestly, they really did. Like I said, I went into it with about medium expectations, and I was actually, I was fulfilled. I didn't, you know, I was like, I just hope they don't ruin it, hope they don't, like, bastardize the name, but it was good. It had good gags, it definitely had that Stooges feel to it, which I can't really explain, it's just the pacing, it was good. Not too many gripes, actually, in relative speaking, really good casting. In case you don't know, you had Will Sasso as Curly, pretty much spot on for him. Not that I don't think Jim Carrey wouldn't have done a good job. And I'll get to why in my gripes here in a second. But and then we had Sean Hayes as Larry. That was really good. Like he got that down. And Dino Stephanopoulos played Moe, and yeah, he was spectacular. Voice, the look, it was like, you know, seeing a young Moe on the screen, so good job on that for casting. Yeah, I mean, it was really good. It actually had a decent story, and had a reason why they were kind of clueless in the world, and, you know, it had some really good gags. Of course, had the slapsticks. If you're not a fan of slapstick, don't even bother, because that's what it is. But it was good. I mean, it was executed very well. Of course, they put in the old sound effects. You had the mannerisms of the guys, and that was done really well, I thought, to a point. I'll get to that in my gripe section. But overall, I would say, if you're a fan, I'd say at least give it a shot. You know, I'm going to get into the couple critical things here in a second, but overall, they did a really good job, and I would like to see more come out of it, like a sequel or a TV series. Not even necessarily recreating the old shorts, which would be pretty cool, but I can appreciate, and that's one thing that they did with the movie, they didn't necessarily, like, just piece together old shorts to make a movie. It was, they just took kind of the theme of what they were about and put it into it. Now, there were definitely some nodbacks, as a fan who's seen a lot of their stuff, recognized, and I could definitely appreciate that. But, yeah, overall, I'd say definitely good job, Farrelly Brothers. Long time in the making, recast who knows how many times, and we finally got it. And it was good. Definitely don't regret spending the money on the ticket. Now for the gripes. Not too many. Honestly, it's just real fan nitpicky stuff. I'd say my one thing, you could definitely tell, and it's no fault of his own, I still say Will Sasso was a pretty good cast choice for Curly. But you could definitely tell a couple times that Will Sasso's voice was definitely not that high on a regular basis. That he was definitely voiced and talking like this. But it worked. I mean, he did a good job. Just a couple times. There was times he would holler off to somebody at a distance, and it kind of lost that octave range that Curly had. And honestly, Curly, the original Curly, originally actually sounded like that because he was just young. And unfortunately lost at a young age, but he actually pretty much sounded like that. He made it a little higher for certain things, but that's pretty much how he sounded. There's that. The only other thing, again, just fan nitpicky, a couple times, even though it worked in the overall scene, the Curly mannerisms, like I said before, it was kind of brought about just as kind of a off-the-cuff thing that he did, and they just kind of let it go without yelling cut. A couple times it seemed kind of forced. I mean, it worked. It was good to see it, but it just didn't kind of really tie in. Now, I'm not saying old school Curly didn't just do random crap. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It at least seemed to fit in the old shorts to some point. But other than that, I'd say my only other even possible gripe would be the fact that there were a handful of times when they needed a reaction from the group of them or from Mo, and they would do the gag. Not saying they didn't do that in the original. They did, especially in the later years, like with Curly Joe. You could definitely see that Mo was kind of channeling his brothers and doing that more so. But it was a Stooge thing. It was something they did. But it just seemed, sometimes it was just one of those things. It's kind of like, oh, we have a panning shot of the guys. We need a reaction. Let's have them do that. Was it overused? Almost. In my opinion, almost. Like, it's one of those things, if they had done it like 2 more times, I probably would have been mad at it. It is something they did, but it just came across as filler to me in some scenes. It's just like they could have reacted different or done something. And I'd say my only one other small gripe, in the old ones, especially the Curly years, Curly was pretty much the center, because he was usually the one that caused the problems or whatever, and the other two were just reacting. And don't get me wrong, I get equal screen time for everybody in the new one. But, Will Sasso, on a handful of occasions, and I'm not saying Curly never had a confused look on his face or anything like that, but he just seemed to kind of, like he would be doing a bit, talking, doing the gestures, and then like the default, he would go back to his confused face. It just, Curly did just stand there and listen. It wasn't always like, and a couple times it's almost like he didn't know what to do. Like in the beginning of the movie when they're going away, he kind of just, I don't know what that was supposed to be. I'm not saying the old Curly did not act confused, but but other than that, again, and I know that's ridiculous, upper level fan griping, kind of like how Lucas made Ewoks blink. That's why I don't own the Blu-rays, but that's a whole other issue. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the new Three Stooges movies. If you're an old fan, and a couple of the people I saw it with weren't necessarily like huge Stooge fans, they know of them, they've seen bits, and they actually enjoyed themselves. Some of them may actually see this video and leave a comment. They can vouch for it. It was a good time, had ball, went with a couple friends, and it was good stuff. Overall, 9 out of 10, and that's as kind of going into it as a nitpicky fan. So check it out. It's in theaters now. I really hope it does well so we can see more of it. And yeah. No.